16,000 spectators filled the stadium to the brim. A career-changing victory followed by complete silence, but it wasn't the silence of defeat or disappointment. It was the kind of silence that falls when something so powerful happens that words haven't been invented for it yet. This is what truly unfolded at Indian Wells, and it had nothing to do with prize money. March 8, Stadium 1, Indian Wells, California, one of the most vibrant and loudest arenas in professional tennis. Alexandra Eala had just delivered a stunning performance. She dismantled world number 4 Coco Gauff, breaking her serve multiple times in the first set, reeling off 5 games in a row. She took the opening set 6-2 and raced to a commanding 2-0 lead in the second set. She looked dominant, calm, and completely at home on the biggest stage in the sport. Then suddenly everything shifted. Gauff began visibly struggling, clearly in severe pain with her left arm. She would later describe the feeling as fireworks exploding inside her muscles, a pain so intense it left her no choice. She had to retire. She slowly walked toward the net. In that moment, with 16,000 people holding their breath, the match stopped being about tennis. The flag stopped waving. The roar of the crowd faded away. The entire stadium seemed to exhale as one. Eala, standing in the middle of what should have been the greatest victory of her career so far, didn't celebrate. She didn't raise her arms or pump her fists. Instead, she walked toward Gauff not as a rival, not as a winner, but as a fellow human who genuinely cared. She followed her as Gauff gathered her belongings. She stood there and listened attentively as Gauff explained what she was going through. There was no acting, no performance, just two young women sharing a quiet, human moment in the corner of a massive stadium. Eala would later admit that competing on Stadium 1 against one of the best players in the world was still a huge milestone for her. But even her own words couldn't hide what her face revealed in those emotional seconds. To truly understand why this moment hit so hard, you need to look back a little earlier. In 2025, Eala had already announced her arrival. At the Miami Open, she defeated world number 2 Iga Swiatek. Then she knocked out Grand Slam champions Madison Keys and Alina Rybakina in back-to-back matches. That breakthrough run earned her over $332,000 in prize money, yet money was never the main point. The real message was clear: she belonged at this level. She had always belonged. The rankings were simply catching up. At Indian Wells, she went even further, reaching the round of 16 and adding another $78,000 to her earnings. But when she stood at the microphone after the match, she didn't mention money even once. She spoke about the journey, the hard work, and the process. Then, on International Women's Day, her voice softened as something shifted inside her. She thanked all the women who had paved the way before her. She described Coco Gauff as an extraordinary competitor and a role model and wished her a speedy recovery. Then she turned toward the stands, locked eyes with her mother, and spoke words that melted the entire stadium. The applause that followed wasn't just polite clapping, it was deep, emotional, and heartfelt. The crowd didn't want the moment to end. However, there's an even deeper layer to this story that most cameras missed. It only makes full sense when you know the history between these two players. It all began with a direct message on Instagram before the 2025 Italian Open. Eala, showing her usual boldness, asked Gauff if she would be her doubles partner. It was a big request, but Gauff agreed. Together, they reached the quarterfinals, competing against top pairs and displaying a surprising chemistry that impressed even their own teams. But the results weren't the real story. What mattered more was the bond that developed between them. On the clay courts of Rome, two young women from different parts of the world, both carrying heavy expectations, found something authentic in each other. They trained together before the Australian Open. They exchanged supportive messages after wins and losses. They joked openly on social media in ways that felt completely natural. Their friendship was the kind that professional sport rarely allows to flourish because the stakes are usually too high and the competition too fierce. Yet theirs was real, and it was visible for everyone to see. So when Gauff told her at the net, "You're playing great," she meant every single word. And when Eala walked her off the court with a gentle hand on her back, that gesture was genuine too. After the stadium had largely emptied, something even more personal reportedly happened. Eala had a small commemorative token with her, a meaningful item she had received weeks earlier after her run at the ASB Classic in Auckland. It wasn't a Grand Slam trophy or a WTA title, but it held special value for her. She placed it in Gauff's hands and said, "I want you to have this. Your message before my first WTA quarterfinal meant everything to me." Gauff looked at the token, then at Eala, and replied, "You're going to have so many more of these, you won't even remember this one." They shared a long, warm hug, not the quick, formal hug of competitors, but a real, lingering embrace. The video spread rapidly. Friendship over rivalry began trending. Fans who witnessed it live said they felt they had seen something truly rare in professional sports, a moment that couldn't be measured by scores or statistics. Meanwhile, the rankings continued to shift. Eala broke into the top 30 of the WTA rankings for the first time in her career. Her victories over Swiatek, Keys, Rybakina, and now Gauff were no longer upsets. They had become a pattern, a clear sign of something special in the making. Gauff returned to action at the Miami Open, faced Rybakina again, and kept pushing forward. When asked about Eala, she didn't hesitate. "She's a class act. I'm lucky to call her my friend." And that single line captures the heart of the entire story. Because this was never really about prize money, rankings, or trophies. It was about two young athletes, both under immense pressure, both far from home, who chose to genuinely support each other in a sport that rarely leaves room for such humanity. It was about Alexandra Eala standing on the biggest stage of her life and still choosing to ask, "Are you okay?" Behind every ranking number is a real person. Behind every post-match interview lies years of sacrifice. And every now and then, on a court in front of 16,000 people, that truth breaks through in a way no scoreboard can capture. That's what Indian Wells truly gave us, not just a result but a powerful reminder.